Omar, thanks very much for joining us on the programme. I'd like to start, if I could, by taking you back to your time here in Scotland and ask you what your fondest recollections are of playing both with Pollock and with Scotland.
I think the very first one was the surprise I got when I arrived in Scotland on the wet conditions I had to play in. So that stuck with me and it was a huge challenge to make that change and how to play on these slow pitches and the cold conditions. And then the other one was the passion that the cricketers throughout Scotland, not just in Glasgow, but in Glasgow it was very strong, and and they were fierce competitors, and they really challenged you, and I think they brought the best out of me because I firmly believe at that time I had an ambition to play at a higher level, whether it was test level or at the county level, but I wasn't ready really to take on what I did in Scotland. But the club cricket and everything else sort of gave me that real kickstart and put me on the right track.
It must have been frustrating for you at the time not to have been able to develop at the higher level in your own country. You know, how did that make you feel, having to travel so far around the world in order to get those opportunities?
Well, it was something that I was very much against, but I knew as an individual at the time there wasn't much I could do towards it in terms of it politically. But on the cricket side, I felt, that was part of me going around the world, wherever the opportunities are, and develop myself. And hopefully through that process, I can come back if and when the opportunity came that the politicians can sort out whatever differences there were. Hopefully I can become a catalyst and really assist that cricket as a whole can grow within South Africa.
Did it finally have the opportunity to go back and represent your country as the first non-white to do so? Can you describe how that felt at the time, and when you look back on it now, how does it make you feel?
Well, I remember I was in Scotland still when South Africa left for India for that first tour. For most of us, and especially for me, I thought it was never going to happen in my lifetime. So it was a dream come true. It was a time whereby you basically just played cricket because of your passion and the love, and you wanted to make a career out of it. And then when that happened, it was almost as if you found new energies and etc. And then when I watched South Africa play, I then realized that I had an opportunity. I was playing good cricket in South Africa and in Scotland. I possibly played my best cricket during those 4 or 5 years. The flip side of that was that I had to leave a lot of work and a lot of friends and a commitment I made to Scotland. I had to leave that behind because even on the Scottish side, we made a lot of progress. We started to gather a good group of players together. They were competitive. We started to win games, and they started to believe in themselves. And the idea was to qualify for the World Cup, and fortunately that happened.
And who do you remember in particular from that period that stood out for you as an individual?
Well, there was a group of players. I remember at that time it was guys who came in when we were basically building a young side. Ian Phillip, Bruce Russell, the Simpson brothers. There was quite a few of them, and then I think the youngest guy was George Salmon, who eventually captained Scotland as well. So those were the guys that we identified and really gave an opportunity. And I must say, from what I have followed since I left, I think Scotland has made progress. But I watched them the other day play against New Zealand, and there is a distinct difference between Ireland and Scotland, and it looked as if Ireland has just gone a level ahead of them.
Well, let's look at Scotland just now. And what changes have you seen in Scotland's development, and how do you rate their chances of securing one, maybe two victories in this World Cup?
Yeah, no, I can see there's a huge improvement. You know, if I look at the team that has played against New Zealand, you know, if I look at the bowlers, there's definite potential there. The two opening bowlers looked potentially good bowlers. It's a case of, I think, is it Wardlaw? He's at Yorkshire. I think he can definitely develop into a fine bowler. He's got good skills. It's a case of understanding how to play 50 over cricket and what his role is, and get the right combination between how to take wickets and how to stop people from getting boundaries. But he definitely has got potential. I think the off spinner, I think it's Majid Haq or something. Yeah, he can bowl. So there's potential there that can be developed. It is now to get the right numbers and the right players for the different formats. If the players that you picked and that you identify have got that mindset and is not afraid to fail in the process to improve, then I think that will be the key to your developmental progress.
What do you think the keys to success are for Scotland against this English team?
Well, you've got to beware, because that's a lion that has been hurt a lot over the last 2 days, and they would like to put the record straight. Now, England is not a bad team. I think England is trying to find their way on with this new group of players and new leaders, how to really play one-day cricket. And I know that there's been a lot of criticism, and people who's not in the side yet that sit on the bench, why are they not playing? Because they're quality batters and they're really positive stroke makers and can take bowling attacks apart. But having said that, it's a side with a lot of pride, and they might just come very hard at Scotland to really get some confidence. And if that is the case, Scotland is going to need to really bring their A game and stay focused. But I'm sure history told me every time I played for Scotland against MCC, it was almost like a war. Everybody in the Scottish dressing room lift their game by 120%, and sometimes I was surprised how well the players performed during games like that. So I believe that if they can, at the end of the day, go into every game with that kind of commitment, determination, and focus, they could really set a very high standard and be role models for the rest to come.
Let's turn to your own country, South Africa. They got off to a comfortable winning start against neighbours Zimbabwe. How do you rate their chances in this World Cup?
I think this team is a phenomenal team, possibly better balanced than any of the other South African teams. If you look at that first 5-6 batters, they're all match winners. They can be very, very destructive. If they score enough runs, then I think the bowling won't be too bad, and they've got people that can take wickets up front. we might battle with our death bowling. But if we score enough, we might get away with that. And our fielding, I'm comfortable with South Africa's fielding. They've always set high standards in terms of that.
Comparing them just briefly to Australia and New Zealand, who are arguably the two favourites for the tournament, do you think it's as straightforward as one of those three teams for the title this year?
If we qualify, we might see some phenomenal cricket. From what I've seen from Australia, New Zealand, what I've seen about South Africa now recently against the West Indies, I tell you what, it was frightening to see the amount of runs scored, the shots played, the quality of the fielding. I think by the time we get to the top four in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand is in there with possibly one of the others, then we're going to see some really, really good one-day cricket.
But just a final word before you go. Do you have a message for the Scotland fans? There must be a little bit of your heart that is still supporting Scotland in this tournament. Do you have a message for the Scotland team, the Scotland fans, and your former colleagues and friends at Pollok Cricket Club?
I do miss Scotland. I do miss the time that I spent there, the people that I've met and made friends and played with and against. I talk every day to people about my stay in Scotland and the cricket we played and how it really improved me and became a stepping stone and gave me opportunities. So first of all, I'm very grateful for that opportunity, and I will never forget my stay in Scotland. To the Scottish people and the cricket fraternity, I think I do get the sense that the game is busy to grow in Scotland from what I hear and what I read. And if I look at this team, it's a team that there's a lot of skill. Some of them has got county experiences. They got contracts and whatever, and that is the right way. To the cricketers themselves, one-day cricket or T20 cricket to a certain extent is a lottery, but there are methods on how to really win these kind of games, and one just has to become a student of the game and really research on what can be done to win 50-over games and not be fearful of losing, because Scotland is still in the developmental stages, and I do believe that once you're in that space, you shouldn't be afraid to lose, because it is by losing, and if you hate losing and you're prepared to learn, you'll be able to overcome the fear, really work it out in terms of we bat 50 overs and we maximize the rules within the game, i.e. power play and at the death. And make sure that you score enough runs on the conditions that you play. And then in terms of batting and bowling, one-day cricket for a bowler, it's very tough. So it means that you have got to be very strong and you've got to operate within a framework and just make sure that your skill levels are up there to compete. Sometimes you're going to get smashed out the ground, and sometimes it's going to work for you. But you've got to believe in yourself. And if you're prepared to learn, I firmly believe that Scotland, just like Ireland, can go to the next level. But you need to be patient and you need to measure yourself and as a cricketing nation on where you're going in terms of increasing the numbers of people playing and also the numbers of potential quality players within your pipeline. And that is the only way Scotland will be able to sustain the game and improve.
Omar, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I hope everything of the best and Scotland to win.